All right, Madison team. Here's a recap of the February 28th meeting that we had. Move forward. All right, we talked about payments. Just want to know if you had anything to be turned in. We took care of that then. This slide, I don't even need to talk here. We talked about the diagram program. Hopefully, Jeff and James, you're using that pen I gave you. And we'll move forward with this. All right, reporting. Again, it's important to make sure that we're reporting correctly, not just from an inventory standpoint, but from a customer standpoint. They need to be alerted by the Department of Ag and everything that what's being on their home. And from a customer standpoint and a company standpoint, we want to make sure that they're well informed. So by giving them a list of the products we're reporting properly and how much, allows them that information so they can go search for it on their own, or they can call us and ask us direct questions. So if you do report incorrectly, you guys can be fined or lose your license from the Department of Ag. They're not going to come after us. Again, Rove's not going to dip and run. Kind of talked about that. But we need to make sure that we're reporting correctly. If there's a product not in the system and you used it, let me know ASAP so I can get it in the system and update it. If you notice a product's not in there, don't use it again until I put it in there. Never say you used a product when you didn't. Okay? If you go out to a stop and you don't do anything because you don't see anything that's fit, I would rather you say that than just say that you did something just so it looks good. Okay? The Dog and Pony Show is great, but we want to make sure that we don't have the Dog and Pony Show. We want to make sure that we actually do what we're saying. So you guys are great with it now. Just a good reminder. Non-target species. A non-target species, anything we're not treating for. Pets, squirrels, snakes, anything. Deer, whatever. If a mouse gets into ant bait, that's a non-target species. So we have bait stations, we have treatment practices, application methods designed to make sure that we're targeting just our species, and it limits that non-target exposure. Non-target exposure is different than secondhand poisoning. Secondhand poisoning is like if an owl or a bird or a dog were to eat a mouse that has eaten a pest, eaten the poison or been exposed to the bait. That was our target, so that was good. But then, something else ate that target. So non-target exposure and secondhand poison are two different things. But it's important to understand what they are, and it's important to know that everything we do, like we talked about dust in March, and everything we do is designed to make sure that we are hitting our target and we are reducing the risk that a non-target will get into that. That's why our bait stations are anchored and locked. That's why we put gel behind things or in tubes, stuff like that. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. Repellents versus non-repellent. Pretty self-explanatory. A repellent is something that repels. A non-repellent is something that does not repel. There are times where we would want to use one over the other. If you have ants inside, we don't want to use a repellent. So you're going to stay away from your Suspend, your Lambda Star, your Demands, and you're going to look more for your Tempered, your Phantoms. Termidor is also a non-repellent because we don't want to repel the ants. We want them to interact with the product. Now, if there are no ants inside, now we want to use a repellent because we want to prevent them from coming inside. That's when you'd kind of use one over the other. Think of it this way. A repellent is generally going to be faster acting. A non-repellent is generally going to be slower acting. So it's good to also inform the customer of that too. I use Tempered inside. It is a non-repellent, so it's easier for the pests to interact. Because of that, it takes a little bit longer for them to react. So it could take up to, a week or two, 7 to 10 days for it to be effective. So just kind of keep that in mind, and that's a good thing. Repellents, and then if you think 565 is a repellent, and you could smell it, but it's also a contact killer, very fast acting. So these are some baits that we use. Again, 375A is a granular, but it functions like a bait. It's always a good idea. Some of you don't have, we don't have contract blocks anymore. We may get them back. We don't have Talon anymore. We may get them back. You guys don't have Vendetta out there, I don't think. But you do have other cockroach bait. I don't think you guys have any fly baits. You do have the dry flow bait, so it's a good idea to understand how to use these. Again, make sure that when you're using them, you're using gloves. You don't want your skin to come in contact. The oils on your skin will render it pretty useless. And the idea when using baits is you're rotating it. Now, obviously, with Contract and Easy Blocks, we don't necessarily rotate those. But when it comes to your gel baits, you want to make sure that you're rotating them. I got a PDF that I'll bring out next time that kind of shows you what the difference between a neonicotinoid and what I forget what the other ones are called, but the difference in where your bait, and make sure that you're using baits from different classes. So but we want to rotate our products so that way we don't create bait aversion. All right, ants. This is how we identify them. Again, some of these you won't be able to tell in the field, but hopefully with the camera thing that I gave you guys last time I was out, that'll help. And just to kind of see how we went through those on, single patole, double patole, that kind of stuff. That's always, so this is a single patole ant, uneven thorax. You can kind of see the segments. That's how we would identify that this is in fact a cornfield ant. One thing, a carpenter ant, now this is a Herculean carpenter ant. One thing carpenter ants over everything is they have the single patole, but then they have this even thorax. You can tell that there's multiple segments, but it's one even curve. So that's a telltale sign that it's a carpenter ant. Whereas with the pavement ant, you can see multiple segments. It's uneven. It's also got these two spines, and it's a dual patole or dual node. Some things to tell the customer. Now, this last one you really can't say, but saying you don't want to bait for the scouts, thus creating a food source for them to tell their friends about and come and eat later. You may create an issue rather than preventing one. All right, we went through these products. I'll go through them real quick again. Tempered FX and Tempered Ready Spray. Tempered Ready Spray is the same thing as Tempered FX, except it's just mixed in a can. It's not an aerosol. It uses compressed air to push a bag that's full of liquid. Tempered FX is something that you would mix in your B&G, like Suspend Polyzone, and we use it for bed bugs. It's great for interior treatment for ants and stuff like that. It is a non-repellent. Great all-around product. Ultracide is an aerosol. It's our flea treatment. So that's used for our flea treatment. Ultracide and the aerosol, we use it for our flea treatment. The directions are on there and kind of how to use it and where you can apply it. Biggest thing is always read the label. And then we talked about IGRs, the Gentrol Archer versus the discs. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.